everyone.
Joining us right now from the Daily Beast, our friend Eli Lake. Eli, did you celebrate Festivus yesterday?
I'm even secular on Festivus.
You really? You didn't air your grievances?
I'm Jewish, so I'll go with Hanukkah, and that came around Thanksgiving.
I know. Yeah.
Hello, my old colleague Jennifer from the Washington Times.
Hi, Eli.
Good to hear from you.
Yeah.
Listen, yesterday we had the spectacle of Edward Snowden doing a victory lap from Moscow. Must have been a chilly lap. I hope he was dressed warmly, but he said mission accomplished. What mission is that, Eli Lake, and do you agree?
I have to say I think he's right on this because the president's blue ribbon panel for reforming the NSA has made some very significant recommendations for reform, and I have the impression, based on the fact that the president appointed all of these people, and they're all very close to him, like Cass Sunstein, and Mike Morell is definitely trusted by the White House, the former deputy CIA director, that this is probably representing what is going to end up being new and reined-in MSA programs. And in that respect, I think that Edward Snowden would say mission accomplished. He got journalists to talk about these programs that were highly classified, and the response has been from the executive branch to institute reform.
And I think the reform that got the biggest headlines yesterday was the idea that phone companies would be charged with the responsibility of storing everybody's metadata for years on end. And then if the government requires or wants to look at it, they would have to seek out a warrant each time. Should those Americans who were concerned about their privacy feel better that a private corporation is storing all of that rather than the government?
Well, and some have talked about it as a kind of third-party public trust. But I don't know that, listen, all of it's going to be in one place. The government will have more restrictions on how it can access it, but other people could access it, and those restrictions may not be as much. It's unclear whether total privacy would be protected more under this kind of scenario, in part because we just don't know what the final thing is going to look like. I would say this is very similar to a plan that was disclosed earlier this summer by Dennis Blair, Obama's first director of national intelligence. They had asked in his first term for the phone companies to store the data, and the phone companies, according to Blair at least, said no. So it's interesting that it kind of comes back to this plan that they originally wanted to do anyway.
Eli, if we go back a couple of Christmases ago, we were dealing with someone called the Christmas underwear bomber. My question to you is whether or not during this holiday season, if we can expect to see any more lone wolf type of attacks, should that be something for the American public to worry about? What's your prediction on that?
I couldn't predict, but one of the things we know about lone wolf attacks is that they're very difficult to detect and predict. Even with this incredible technology and various programs of the NSA, it's very hard to predict lone wolf bombers. I would say the Christmas Day bomber was a full-blown operation. He was a Nigerian. He spoke English. He was recruited and trained by al-Qaeda's affiliate in Yemen and was given a very sophisticated kind of bomb that he hid in his underwear, for an airline plot. So it was a little bit different than what would be considered a lone wolf attack.
Yeah.
I guess they call in the Boston Marathon bomber.
Yeah, but even then, they were certainly inspired by Chechnyan rebels too. There really isn't a lone wolf situation anymore these days with the way there's these networks are. In fact, shifting gears back over to Al-Qaeda, something quite a spectacle this weekend. Members of Al-Qaeda actually apologized for an attack on a hospital in Yemen. They apologized because they didn't mean to target the hospital in their attack. This is somewhat unprecedented, isn't it?
Well, this gets to this kind of real dilemma for Al-Qaeda, which is that unfortunately and tragically, they're very good at mass destruction. They're very good at insurgency. What they're not good at is what happens once they win the territory or governance or the second phase of their project. Every time Al-Qaeda has had control of an area, whether it's Anbar in Iraq or places in Somalia or in some of the sort of more remote provinces of Yemen, they have failed in terms of winning over the local population for a long period of time. They've always had to enforce a very strict version of Islamic law, and they don't have popular support. So their political agenda for how to remake society does not have support for most Muslims, and then it requires them to usually use violence amongst their own community, and that makes them very unpopular. They're really just a group of thugs who cannot really translate from being the insurgent to being the power.
But for Al Qaeda to apologize about murdering innocent people, I mean, I thought that was part of the description of being a member of Al Qaeda, is that your job is to go murder innocent people. That's what terrorists do.
Your job is to go murder innocent infidels in the hospitals, and it was a Muslim hospital. But this is the thing: is that this is nothing new. I mean, remember when Al Qaeda's man in Iraq, Abu Musab Zarqawi, was in charge? Al Qaeda had a reputation for, every unimaginable cruelty. They would find learning disabled people, strap them to truck bombs, and have them drive into crowded marketplaces, and that became, unfortunately, the norm. They went after deliberately the religious holy sites of Shia Muslims and things like that, which really cause people to despise Al Qaeda, particularly in the Muslim world.
Eli, there was always a mantra that when we were trying to track terrorists, we track them through money, through finances. And you write this week, the U.S. government this week said the head of a human rights organization working on behalf of Islamic political prisoners was also a financier for Al Qaeda. Is this a new twist on that? Is this a new phenomenon?
Well, what's extraordinary is, and this is the Treasury Department's designation, and we should say that even the Treasury Department sometimes could get it wrong. So, the guy himself, who's the head of the Al-Karama Foundation, has said that he's going to fight these charges, but he's also stepping down. But what's really interesting is that this is the group that has provided quote-unquote field research. And I should say their Yemen representative is also designated by the Treasury Department for a lot of the reports on the civilian casualties in the drone war that have been used by American human rights organizations. So it's the interconnectedness between Al-Karama, which is based, I should say, in Switzerland, and groups like Human Rights Watch, which have worked together on campaigns, UN organizations like the UN Human Rights Council, and something called the Center for Constitutional Rights, which I have relied on, and they've done, extraordinarily, I think, careful work, obviously from a point of view on American legal questions, but have also used Al-Karama for this field research for the effects of the U.S. drone war. And I think it does call into question some of the advocacy, I think, from some of the American groups, although, there's more reporting to be done on the story. And, we also still, the other guy says, they've got it wrong, although it's interesting that he's saying he got it wrong, and he's also stepping down from his organization that he founded.
Yeah. All right, Eli Lake, we're going to have to leave it at that. Listen, thank you for joining us today on Christmas Eve. Happy Hanukkah to you, belatedly. It's been a month, and we wish you luck in the new year at Daily Beast.
And thank you, and Merry Christmas to you and all the WMAL